I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to be your leader. I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear.
It's a mathematical model that is predicting what it should say based on what you asked. It really doesn't think and process and say what is the right answer, what is the nuance, which is what we humans still have a leg up
I
on.
think it's zero that it makes for a better meta. I think it's close to 100 that it will actually roll out.
Much of the younger generation prefers to have a discussion with a LLM because it's better at being empathic, whereas some of the managers they've had or some of the support system that they have doesn't listen. LLMs will always listen. They'll always have an opinion. They'll always prop you up. They'll always support you.
Entry music. Da, 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 da. It's the Bob and Josh show.
Not too long ago, Meta announced that their AI team has a 1 to 50 ratio. So their manager has 50 direct reports. Bob and I are going to debate that. We're going to talk about why that's amazing and why everybody should do it. And then we'll flip the coin and say, maybe you shouldn't do it. So that's today's topic. Bob, how do you feel? Like, how does that like send, you know, caffeinated vibes? Like, this is amazing.
It does. Oh, I get so excited. Oh, yeah.
Well,
Oh, let's look at the balance sheet. Oh, now I'm excited. Okay. So I'm going to come at this from a different direction, Josh. It's ratios. So to me, it's ratioitis sometimes. And I was looking at I'm looking at care facilities lately for my wife. And there's one of the key I've written about this in my caregiving blog. One of the key things, probably the key thing to ask and to focus on is what are their caregiver to recipient ratios. Now, these big businesses, and there's no federal regulation and there's very little state regulation. So it's up to the companies to be either well behaved or not so well behaved. So it's really they have the freedom to do whatever they want. So yesterday, I asked, and I had a memory care facility, and it was 8 to 1. So there's eight residents to one caregiver. Um, so that means in an 8 hour day, if you just sort of average it across, that's what 1 hour of care that they can provide, and I've been mulling over that, and that's the state regulation, and a lot of folks will go higher than that, and it's purely a money play, Josh. It's purely so to me, it's a money versus quality play. Does that make sense? Right? Quality of care and how much juice can we squeeze out of the fewest number of people? And if you do any research into the caregiving industry, RNs, LPNs, uh, nurse assistants, they're all burned out. They're all even in the hospitals. When Diane was in the hospital, the ratios are out of kilter. So the businesses are driving the ratios, and what's suffering? Quality, right? So now let's bring that back to here, Meta. They're trying to create an attractive ratio. That makes perfect business, makes perfect sense to me. How do we squeeze more juice? What do managers do anyway? What the hell do
yeah.
they
I
do?
mean, nothing.
What do,
Yeah.
what do they do? They do nothing. They sit there, they smoke cigars, and they go play golf whenever they can during, during the day, and go to the bathroom. That's all they do. Uh, so uh, so we need to maximize the doers versus the leaders, and so from a pure bottom line, and AI I think makes this even more attractive. I know because now you can have AI grabbing some data or coaching people individually or giving them performance hints and things. So AI can actually complement that. So you can handle 50 because now we've trained you on AI. Um, and so I'm actually I get it, but I worry about the quality. So in the caregiving, I've actually there's sucky care. Let's flat out say it. Anyone do the research because the businesses have driven too far up. And this meta 50 to 1 strikes me as the same mindset. which is we're looking at it as a balance sheet, and we're looking at it as trivializing the role of leadership. That's I know it's managers, but leadership. I'm not talking about being. I'm talking. What we're talking about here is we're not talking about practice. We're talking about leadership. Okay, this is leading individuals, leading human beings, and then we're minimizing that, or we're creating a sense where a good leader doesn't have much time to lead people, and that worries me. It pisses me off, and I worry about it undermining the bottom line, right? And being counterintuitive, it affects the business side of things as well,
Yeah.
right?
So my
So
analog,
so argue with me
I,
and
I'm
just
I'm going to draw an analog as a father with college age students. So many colleges talk about their professor to student ratio, similar thing, right? So, and everybody's trying to sell lower ratio is better. Um, I'm going to take an opposing stance on this of what you would expect me to say and what Bob has said. There's two things that I like about this. I'm not saying you should do it, but there's two things I like about this. One, I appreciate a willingness to experiment and say, hey, we're going to try something crazy. Let's see
okay.
if it works. It seems crazy, but everything's crazy until somebody goes out and proves that it actually can work. I personally would not go to the 1 to 50 ratio. They are claiming they are already at the 1 to 25 ratio. So they're doubling it
Of
using
course they
AI.
are. Of course they are. Yeah. Why not?
So,
Why not go through? Why not just have the CEO? Everyone report to the CEO for Christ's sakes. Let's go. Run
okay,
the
so the
experiment.
the the
I'm sorry,
the
Josh.
the other thing that I like, and Bob and I debated this before we started a little bit, is that I read this as a drive towards a flatter hierarchy. Bob made a good point that that doesn't mean this is exactly how it's going to work out, but I value a hierarchy that is fewer pieces, fewer bits, fewer steps from bottom to top. Why? Because what I've found in those cases, everybody has a greater connection to the context, greater clarity on where we're going, why we're doing it, what it means to our customers. I found that to be easier the fewer levels there are in the middle. So if this truly were a play to drive towards that, then I think there's some benefit. Do I think it's going to work? No. Would I do it within my org? No, because I believe that a leader's job is to make their team better at the craft that they're working with. And I don't know how. Again, we might be proven wrong. Bob and I have been wrong once or twice in our, 16 years of doing this. So maybe this is the third time. Uh, I don't know how I would effectively and with confidence say, I'm making all of you better. I'm making a difference here. I feel like you're just hanging on, trying to make sure things are getting done as opposed to really being a leader and growing people. I don't know how you do that. Again, I've been wrong once or twice. This might be it.
But let me go back and so if this is managers, uh, so first thing, let's be clear. In the article that we're referencing, Metacasters, it's a Forbes article, I believe, that Josh is referencing. They're talking about line managers. So they're not talking about removing hierarchy. They may be behind the scenes, they may be doing that, but the article is focused on line managers, first line managers, where team members report up to them, and they're talking about the ratio of line manager to employee and moving that from something. Historically, I've heard numbers like 8 to 1, roughly, plus or minus, and you're in trouble when you get to 12 or more to 1. In traditional 20 years ago, there were ratio guidance that you're overloading the manager, okay, with direct employees. So, and they're going to 50. So it's that level. Now, you are, by doing this, you are removing managers at that level, clearly. So if you had a 5 to 1 and you go to 50 to 1, you're removing quite a few of those line managers. But that doesn't mean you're removing directors and senior directors, MVPs and board members. You could have a very heavyweight since those folks are the ones making all the decisions and getting the big bonuses, they may still remain there. So that's one thing. Uh, I'm fighting for leaders at that level. So if those folks are just pointy-headed managers, then I would support what Meta's doing, right? They're not providing. So to me, the value is not telling people what to do. It's not tracking their hours in spreadsheets. It's not signing their vacation requests. It's not doing sort of the tactical management stuff. That is not what I'm fighting for. 50 to 1 can do that. Maybe 100 to 1 can do that. AI can probably do do some of that automated. I'm fighting for leadership, team development, team visioning, right? Organizational alignment and aligning vision up and down. Doing strategy development, being involved in product strategy, technology strategy, infrastructure strategy. It's those things. Mentoring and we've talked about it ad nauseum in the Metacast as the role of leadership is this. If you start now, that's where I'm coming in and saying 50 to 1. Oh my God, it's not just about the leader, it's about the impact that has on the quality of the growth of the organization. And that goes back to my caregiving example.
Yeah, another thing that I'm thinking about is let's turn the table around and as an engineer, what this means for you. There are many engineers that I've worked with and that have been a part of my organizations that would love this because they want to be just left alone. So their capability of being left alone and allowed to cowboy code a little bit more because there's less oversight, that opens that up. Now, in theory, with AI and everything along that path, you can really reduce that. But it'd be interesting to see the makeup of that team or if they have an increased turnover within that team where they're moving from the 1 to 25 to the 1 to 50. I am sure that Meta will not have an issue trying to attract developers, especially in today's days and age where it's unfortunately a buyer's market. So that's, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Um, yeah, thoughts on the engineer side and how you think that would be viewed, Bob?
I mean, again, I think if engineers, so if they've had bad leaders, then it's like, yay, whoopee, right? Get them out of my face. Um, I think if they've had good leaders, like folks that have reported to you, Josh, and they've had a full dose of Josh Anderson historically, uh, and then you said, well, we're going to reduce that. And now I'm arguing that you're a good leader, Josh, right? Clearly,
I mean, that's
so
not much of an argument there.
yeah, it's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
we are in agreement.
So, but I'm just saying again it comes back to quality, right? I'm arguing for quality of the leader, and if it's a quality leader, I think folks would have a problem with that, right? Because it's not just about the leader; it's about the effect that that has on them. It's their growth. It's their mentor. It's their promotability. It's a sounding board to help them navigate. Someone's doing a presentation to senior execs. You're going to coach them through that. I mean, there's these myriad of moments where you're developing the team, and you have no time for. Actually, the 50 to 1 is relegating a good leader to the tactical. Right?
Right.
That's what I would. Even the good ones that because they have no time to do the good the courageous stuff, the righteous stuff, the leadership stuff. They're going to be they're going to be it's just going to push them all. So I worry about that organizational growth. And I know it's going to undermine it. I know that's the fact. They're looking the leaders, the CEOs and stuff. They're looking at people as being fungible. They're fungible commodities. They are resources. They are ratios. And you and I don't look at, well, I don't look at people that, I look at them as assets. They are capabilities. They are the future. So I actually think this is sort of resource based thinking on the part of the leaders at Meta. Do they have the right to do that? Of course they do. Of course they do. But I think they're being short-sighted.
So if I'm Meta and I want to make this happen, I'm going to assume they've made a pretty heavy investment in an AI bot or skill to do a fair amount of the management work. And what's interesting, and Bob, buckle up now, but much of the younger generation prefers to have a discussion with a LLM because it's better at being empathic. Whereas some of the managers they've had or some of the support system that they have doesn't listen. LLMs will always listen. They'll always have an opinion. They'll always prop you up. They'll always support you. So there is a little bit in the younger generation, not a little bit. There is a AI as a support system. So
Yep.
there's a potential that some of the younger generation might value this because the thing you and I are trying to solve, they've had some crappy managers in their day. So let's build a manager. Let's build an AI manager that we want, and let's see if it works. So that's my assumption in how they're trying to. If I got tasked with this, and for some reason I would like, yeah, we should do that. That's how I would try and solve this problem. And I would hire a much younger generation that operates in that mode and in that manner to have a chance. So I just wanted to put that out there as there's a wild and crazy way where this might work for some people. You don't like it. I
Yeah.
know that.
No. It's not that. Yes, it will. But is that so? As you were talking, Josh, I was thinking of radical candor, and two of the tenets of radical candor are care personally and challenge directly. My goal is not to make you love me. My goal is not to blow sweet smoke up your patoot. I can do that. Leaders can do that. You and I try to run the fine line between relationship and caring and providing clear feedback and growth feedback, challenging people, not blowing smoke. We try to do that generationally. We may modify a little bit. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to be your leader. I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear. I don't know if AI is going to make that the way you described it. In the way I think they're more pleasing. They're
Yeah.
more right. And I'm not trying to be an ass. I'm not suggesting we be assholes. But what I am suggesting is you and I run this fine balance of how many hard conversations have you had in your freaking management career, your leadership career, Josh?
Countless.
Thousands.
Yeah.
Countless. Were you trying to make someone happy? Were trying to, give them an A? Were you trying to give them a prize? If it was warranted, yes. But you were also just trying to be real with them. You were trying to care. And that connection is your caring, right? I'm not mean. I care about you, right? I care. And I've established that relationship. So all I'm saying, and that's, again, Meta is disabling that with the ratios. They're reducing the ability to do that. I still think that if we're talking about a kind of company to build, right? A kind of leader to build, to emphasize, a kind of leader who creates organization. If we think that's going to be more performant, not only in the short term, but more importantly in the long term. If you don't buy that, that's fine. Meta's successful, right? They can do whatever they want. And they're going to be successful for a while. But you remember GE? General Electric, Josh, remember? And who was the CEO? Oh my God, I'm blanking on
Is
his
the Jack
name.
Welch guy, right?
Jack. It was Jack Welch. And for years he was put up on a pedestal. But the reality was his bullshit kind of leadership wasn't sustainable. And GE went down the tube. Largely, they went down the tube. So I'm just saying they have the right. You have the right to applaud them. Elon Musk. I don't want to lead like Elon Musk, right? You can. He's inherently successful, um, but life is short. Make some decisions.
Yeah, through my LLM usage, one of the more frustrating bits is when I'm having a discussion with it and we're working on a problem together and it's going down a path. And I say, I believe this path is wrong. Here's why. And its response is, you're absolutely right. So it's like, well, if you knew I was right, which it doesn't, right? It's a mathematical model that is predicting what it should say based on what you asked. It really doesn't think and process and say what is the right answer, what is the nuance, which is what we humans still have a leg up on. We'll see how long that lasts, but that is the difference, is the capability of a mathematical model to determine what should be said for the betterment of the person on the other side of the screen versus what the most common response is based on the training model that it has. Whereas humans have the capability to say, like, okay, cool, Bob's asking me about this, but I really need to tell Bob about something orthogonal to that because that's what he needs to hear. And that's a key differentiator for us as humans that LLMs have not even come close to being able to tackle at this point. So I what I worry about is something similar to what Bob said, is there might be a burst of success, but I think it's going to be capped for Meta. One thing that might happen is they may hire some rock stars into that team, into that model. They're going to succeed anyways because they're just freaking rock stars, and you get out of the way and let them go, which a good leader would do. But they then also might hit their head on a ceiling because they haven't been coached or supported as well as they should have. That as they move throughout their career, there likely going to be some tough lessons that need to be learned, that need to be supported by a great leader. So there is going to be a cap. There is going to be a top. There are going to be some roadblocks they're going to run up against. But there's a likelihood that there will be success because of the caliber of talent that Meta can attract, and that those folks are going to succeed anyways. But it's going to hit a ceiling pretty quickly.
You know what though? I'm gonna call BS a little bit on that. I
Okay.
mean, this is anecdotal,
Yeah.
but haven't they hired? They spent millions and millions of dollars on salaries to hire AI experts. Largely, their AI efforts have been a failure. They're like in a redux of it. They're talking currently about a 20% layoff reduction. This
Right.
thinking may be part of that. Right? They haven't done it yet, but they're leaning into an AI driven, right, an AI substantiated layoff, but it's also a corrective action for strategy,
Right.
like poor strategies, poor hiring strategies, poor AI strategy, poor leadership. These I'm just calling the leaders on this, Josh.
Oh yeah.
So these
Yeah.
are the
Yeah.
same leaders that are 50 to 1, right? AI is our strategy. It's this combination of effective leaders working with effective teams with effective support structures and making sound decisions both in the short term and the long term. If
Well,
anything, if anything, they should be firing. So who are the people that are making these silly leadership decisions? I would argue fire them first. I mean, we're not
right.
talking reduce them. Reduce them and start with Zuckerberg or something, right? Right. Go on an island. You have a boat, you have a yacht, you've done your thing. Get the hell out of there and bring in new leadership. I'm okay with experiments, but it needs leadership and guidance and boundaries and principles, and I think they've lost their way on that.
Yeah, the recent track record is not great, especially in the AI space, and this is targeted at the AI teams. And to
They're
Bob's
like
point,
paying.
yeah,
So
is it
yeah,
robbing Peter to pay Paul because they've overpaid to hire people that now they have to make some difficult choices? And so,
maybe they
yeah,
should have gotten AI to do some hiring trend
yeah,
approximations. Maybe they
yeah.
need to
Now,
get IA to coach the
yeah,
leaders.
my immediate response is there's no way this works, but I'm really trying to find ways where there's something good that's going to come out of this, where they're going to walk away with a result or something. And what I'm worried about is that there are going to be some false positives again, because they have the potential that there might be a rock star in there that becomes a who knows what. And so then that becomes a thing. And the thing that worries me, which is why I think an episode like this is important, is you and I have seen trends where it's a copycat space. And
Yeah,
so who's going to look at this and say, oh, Meta's doing this. We should do that too. Hey, let me march
absolutely.
into my boardroom and say, we're making this big change and here's why. And hopefully somebody in the boardroom is like, what do you, that's preposterous, and doesn't look strictly at the spreadsheet and the numbers. Hopefully there's someone in there that puts their foot down and is like, this is a bad plan. So I
The
hope,
overarching trend I'm seeing is, and I'm gonna share an article with you, Josh, offline. Maybe we can have a look at it in our next Metacast. But this AI strategy trending is dehumanizing the humans in the view of leaders towards them, or the view of organizations towards. It's commoditizing the humans in our mindset, and then we can redux them, right, in some way, or we can become more efficient, and 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 that's okay if you're looking at it as just an operational mindset, a balance sheet mindset. But what about and we've said this a few times here on previous, the innovation. I'm talking about the innovation side of the equation, the multiplying your people where 1 + 1 = 5 in your idea space, in your construction space, in your architectural space of whatever you're building, right? And that's what's going to be lacking, and we're sort of we're leaving that thought behind, and that's what I'm like. Again, part of that is leaders. You could have mediocre, you could have management leaders. Fine, redux them, but they're not all that way. What are you doing? Do you want leaders who are building your organization effectively for now and into the future? I do, but now we're treating them the same way, and I think that's a shame. Not every company, but a lot of companies are jumping on that bandwagon.
yeah, um, I don't feel as if that's new. It might be enabled in more direction by
I would
AI.
agree. I
Yeah.
would agree with that. It's accelerated.
Yeah.
And to me, it feels like a 10x or more.
Yeah.
It's significantly accelerated. Is it new? No, no. There's always been companies. It goes back to that Tayloristic, that mecha. Are we cogs? All right. Are we delivering machines, or are we trying to innovate for the future? You saw that in the computer space. Sun Microsystems, Apple, right? Early, IBM. There was IBM, which was more mechanistic, and then there were all of these. Apple would be a spinoff of that example, where they treated things differently.
Okay. So to wrap, what percentage, let's, um, if you had to place a percentage somewhere between 0 and 100% that this works and becomes the norm across Meta, what percentage would you put on it?
What do you mean? Will it last, or is it going to roll out?
That
Is that the what?
so it is rolling out as an experiment in the AI group. What percentage chance do you believe that it becomes the norm because of success, not because of spreadsheet math or executive math? Um, do you think it's greater than 1% that this actually makes for a better Meta?
I think it's 0 that it makes for a better meta. I think it's close to 100 that it will actually roll out.
Ooh, okay. I am
Right.
I I am going to say optimistic Josh is going to say it's less than 25% that this becomes the norm across Meta. I think somebody's gonna
See,
somebody's
I
gonna
don't see
say the
that.
thing. You don't think
No,
somebody
I
will
don't.
say it? Okay. All right.
No,
Well,
I think the bean counters, the new AI bean counter mentalities across leadership teams in most corporations is going to drive. That means what I'm equating that to 50 to 1 becomes the norm. It's not it moves from experiment to the norm. right? It's a cost saving measure. It's an efficiency driving measure. It's an AI is going to make up the difference measure, but it's not measuring the quality of the leadership, and that will drop. And I'm not saying they won't be
Mm.
successful,
Yeah.
right?
Well, they
I'm
can
not.
they can solve many problems with money.
Yeah,
So
but that's the thinking. I'll say it in a different way. I think that people that think like you and I think we're Don Quixotes to some degree. I think we're less than 10% or less of the leaders in the world. And that makes me sad.
well, damn it,
But
Bob, we're gonna fix that.
that's why I keep talking about it
Yeah.
because I want to influence, I want to challenge that mindset. If Zuckerberg was sitting here, I would butt my old tired forehead against him until I died. Right? I would because he's essentially wrong. He's lost sight of people. And there's all kinds of factors for that. His bonuses, his board, the stock market, right?
Yeah.
All of the stuff that's going on, and he's lost sight. I think he's lost sight of even his principles from when he started the company. You get a lot of leaders get lost
Yeah.
because they had much more balance early, but then they lose that. You can Zuckerberg I think is a fair example of that.
Well, and we've talked about in the past, people get pickled by the environment
Yeah,
that they're in.
yeah,
And so the
yeah.
environment that a leader like that spends time in is vastly different than it was when he was a maker, when he was building the company, when he was growing the
Exactly.
company.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
he's surrounded by is vastly different, which therefore shapes the discussions and the questions and the thought processes and all those things. So,
So Metacasters, I hope you enjoyed partial debate. It's hard for Josh and I to debate if you've followed us for a while, but I think we came at it from different directions.
we tried.
This was a I think this was a relatively solid topic for us to discuss. So hopefully you're noodling on it and you're thinking about ratios and things like that, and you're
Yep.
thinking about where you fall and where your influence curve is. So from beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina.
And from beautiful downtown Fuquay, Arena, North Carolina.
I am Bob, the
No.
killer whale Galen.
And I'm Josh, the nimble dolphin Anderson.
Take
And Pink.
take care, y'all. The nimble dolphin. Yes, you are.